Hey everybody, welcome back to the Crave Show with Chris and JRuss and our special guest tonight, one of my favorite skydivers in the world, Steve Lefkowitz.
Hey,
Hi, Steve.
hello.
Hey, Steve. It's good to have you on, man. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
And it doesn't matter to anybody, but I think that we should note that we're starting just a tiny bit late because Chris is in a play with his kids.
Yes, I am.
And it's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and he is a minotaur that has a death scene in the play, but
Get
not the
stabbed to death.
What's the little guy in the beginning when they first go into the wardrobe? There's a little guy that's like a half.
That's the character
creature
that kills me. That's his
Tumnus. Okay,
Tumnus. Dude, you got a good memory. He's a
cool.
fawn. What do you call it? A fawn, isn't that what it's called? Like a.
But he's half.
Sounds
Right?
like a baby deer.
No, he's like half goat, half man. What's the word for it?
Not a centaur. That's a horse, not a minotaur.
I thought it was a fawn. Maybe there's another word though. There's another
Fawn's
word
like
for
a female deer. No,
fawn is
baby deer.
Actual
Baby
deer. Yeah.
Well, but this is spelled Faun.
Okay.
The baby deer is Fawn, but this is Faun.
Yes.
But what's
I
the
mean,
other word?
Google knows if anybody wants
I'm looking.
to look.
Look at it.
Okay.
Half goat, half man. Fawn. There you go. That's what it says.
But there's got to be another word. Satyr. That's the word.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. People are listening. Are like, come on, you guys. Y'all are idiots. It's satyr. Don't be dumb.
Okay, so what I wanted to start with today, if this is okay with you guys, which I mean, you're going to say it's okay. So I got a text message on Facebook Messenger and a video from a friend, Sean Kennedy, who I believe, where does he jump? He's come to a few of our big weight camps, and so he's a good flyer, good head down flyer. And so the text, I'm going to read the text word for word. It says, "Hey man, thanks so much for doing that Crave episode with Jack Lane. It couldn't have been better timing that I happened to listen to it. I got my mutant and did the training last week, and someone from my home DZ recommended I listen to that episode. During my training, they didn't mention spiral lock once or how to fly out of it. I was on my 5th jump on my VK75, 16th total jump on the system, and was messing around with the turn rates up high. I did a slow start of a 450 and tried to snap the last 180 aggressively and absolutely sent myself into the start of a spiral lock. I over-yawed to the inside of the turn and the wing took off and completely felt like it was flying me. I tried to correct with harness in the opposite front, but it didn't do a thing, so I toggled out of it, and it stopped before it got gnarly, thankfully. It was my first jump playing with the limiter strap between the 3 rings to keep the riser square, and I believe I had it too tight, which made it extra roll sensitive, and my yaw and body position was obviously completely mismanaged. It scared the shit out of me. If it had happened low, I absolutely would have been in trouble. I know you guys mentioned in the podcast you hadn't heard of anyone except Pat having it on skydiving gear. Well, here's a pretty good video of me having at least the start of it. The G-forces tossed my legs out to the side exactly like the Speedrider video and everything. Thankfully, I was at 6K.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was an episode. Steve, I don't know if you know Jack Lane, but he works with Steph and I on a bunch of military contracts and just a very experienced 15 or 16,000 jumps, and he's a paragliding instructor, and he showed, so many people have mutants now, and he showed a video with us of a guy with what's called spiral lock, and he is on a mountainside speed flying, and his canopy just takes off and he can't get out of it, and he lives, but not happily. He had a bad crash. So anyway, we showed that video, and that's one person positively affected. So I was stoked about that.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, it's not cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
That he's okay and that he's safe and that it helped and that's more information for people to share. Like, I mean, that's all those guys. Hopefully a lot of those guys flying mutants know each other and they can connect and talk and like help each other figure out all that stuff. Cause it's such an awesome system. I mean, obviously I've never flown it, but just hearing them talk about it sounds so awesome. Sounds so cool.
So I gotta get up for a second. Our house is in the mountains. We don't have air conditioning, and it was warm today. And I gotta open the front door. It's so hot in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
But I
that's
can
really
still
cool
hear you
because
guys.
that episode I just looked, that was 11 episodes ago. I don't know if
Wow.
JRuss could still hear me, but that was
Oh, I can hear you.
4 months ago. That's really awesome
Uh-huh.
that was able to help him.
So, Steve, while I'm off camera, can you maybe just introduce yourself to anybody who isn't aware of your presence in the community?
I can't hear what he's saying. Can you hear what he's saying?
Like, I can barely hear him. He's like,
I can
Steve.
absolutely do that, JRuss.
Yeah,
That is
for
the thing.
sure.
In fact, I wanted to do it, but I was a little embarrassed. And it's a little easier for me to agree to it without seeing you eye to eye. So I'm really glad you asked in this situation.
I said you should introduce yourself.
He said, can you?
The people who are not aware of your presence in the community.
He already agreed to do it, so make up something crazy. He already agreed.
About Steve, I
said,
can tell stories about Steve, but
no. He said he'll do whatever you ask, and he doesn't know what you asked, but he already agreed to it.
Yeah,
So
just we'll keep it right now. I know he's going to do anything I ask. I have mind control, but
keep it G-rated.
he just can introduce himself.
Sure. Okay, so my name is Steve Lefkowitz. I started skydiving in 2005, I think, and got really heavy into what are we calling now? FS. And I especially love in four-way. In 2009, I quit real work to do competitive four-way full-time and eight-way and other belly stuff. And in 2019, my team Rhythm, which I formed with my wife Jeanette, won the U.S. Nationals in four-way. And that year, I also won eight-way, and I had won eight-way at U.S. Nationals the year before, I believe, and 10 and 16-way. That was a cool year. I won everything you could do on your belly. And we went to the World Championships in Siberia in what was that, 2021, right? Because it was sort of the year after COVID stopped us from doing it, where we came in second in four-way. I love skydiving. I love the wind tunnel as well, but I'm someone who I think what people kind of usually note is that if there's like one more jump to be had as the sun is setting, then you'll usually find me running to the plane to get on that one more jump. Whether it's a solo, I'll do a solo. I'm happy to do a solo. If I could just get into free fall. So, and I've been fortunate to do a few jumps with JRuss too. And while I do mostly belly, when I have spare chance, I also like to play with free flying too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, we'll get along great, man, because that's what we talk about. It's like, just get out there and have fun. Just enjoy it. Like, it is so fun. And so I love to hear you say that. Like, if you any chance to just get up there and get out of that plane, it's so awesome.
Oh yeah. Usually, we'll be organizing at Summerfest, and it's a long day. What is it? It could be 12, 14 hours of sunlight at that time of the year. And there's like I land at like 7:30 at night, and I run up to Manifest, and I put my rig on and say, is there one more spot on that one last plane making it before sunset? And if they say yes, they're like, put me on it. Just hope to find someone to jump with. And if not, that's okay too.
That's great. So if you're going to do, let's say they get you on they're like, yep, there's one spot left, and you get on the load, but everybody's already got something planned. So you're by yourself. You're going to do a solo. End of the day, last jump of the day, you're doing a solo. What are you going to do? If I'm alone, I'm free flying. I'm gonna go out of my head. Probably, maybe I'll practice transition from sit to head down. I'll probably spin around a little bit, and then just at the end, just before it's time to pull and I'm letting myself decelerate, I might do a couple of 360s on my belly. Nice. That's awesome. So then a minute ago, you said, I can't remember what year you said, I think you said you quit work so that you could skydive full time, like basically professionally, right? What year did you say? That was 2009. Okay. So I think most of our listeners are going to be younger, a little bit less experienced. I know we do have some some listeners that are very experienced, because we, some of our friends talk to us and say they've, heard episodes and stuff. But I think people are going to be really curious, like, what does that even mean? Like, how do you do that? How can you quit your job and still pay the bills and get by and take care of your family? Like, how does that even work?
Well, who says that all those things need to be true?
Oh, well, all right. There you go.
No.
Answered.
Actually, the world I came from, I was like I would say in the most general sense, I was in IT consulting. I had a good job, and my wife and I always have been very responsible, very deliberate, very proactive and organized people. So we were not going to be the type of people who were just going to like one day say, I quit, and I'm just going to try skydiving full time. Instead, we were training more and more every year from 2005 to 2009. During that time, we were also building some coaching and organizing experience and a bit of a business there. Also, previous to getting into skydiving, we were really getting into sailing. And we said to ourselves, let's make a plan to sail around the Caribbean. We'll quit our jobs once we've gotten enough experience in sailing and saved up some, so we've got some cushion. So we started skydiving more and more. We loved it. And in fact, I remember right around 2009, still taking these sailing lessons. And we were talking about skydiving on this sailboat on the Lake Michigan in Chicago. And I turned to Jeanette and I said, whenever we're here on the sailboat, we're talking about skydiving. But whenever we're out of the drop zone, we're not talking about sailing. We're talking about skydiving. And maybe that's a message, maybe that's a sign. And so, you had people here who, like, we had built some kind of business, some kind of coaching. We had saved up some kind of money in preparation for taking some time off. We had built a certain amount of experience or reputation in the sport. So to then convert that to, quitting working was not a giant leap. It was scary. It's really scary, right? Because you're still leaving the security of a paycheck. But we felt sure that we could afford and manage, at least a year, let's say, doing this. And so we had the opportunity to say, let's see that and see how it goes. So that's kind of how we did it.
In a sense, something you worked up towards. You kind of had a plan to go that direction and just slowly kind of moved into it in a sense?
Yeah. Even if we didn't know that was the case, it was sort of where things were going in a kind of an organic way. And then in 2009, we got to this point where we had decided that this was something we were more interested in than sailing. And we also got to a point where we knew for us to continue to get better competitively, we had to work less and train more. And right about that time, our work was saying, hey guys, Jen and I actually worked at the same place at that time. And they said, hey guys, you can't take as much time off as you did this year, next year. It was just too much. And so now we were faced with a decision, and we were like, well, guess what? We there's another alternative.
We're going to take off way more time than we took off last year.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, Jeanette she was kind of in the hiring side of our company, and they were telling her they wanted to kind of do this other role, to take on more responsibility. And she was saying, look, I can't do that and do the training I want to do. And so they ended up laying her off. Now, we were leaning that way, so I was getting ready to quit, and so like ultimately what happened logistically is sort of Jeanette gets laid off in, I think, July. She had a great severance package, which paid her out through like September, and I quit in like early September. So she ended up getting paid longer than I did at our company, and spent like 3 more months hanging out. Actually, she got her ratings before I did. She was coaching, and she was living a life while I was continuing working for a few more months, because I was, I was just like, every day I work more, is I work the real job before I actually quit, is like real money I'm making.
Yeah. That's cool. So you guys have been doing that for 15 years now.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. 15
so
years.
I guess it worked. You're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We are supporting ourselves this way. Yeah.
That's great.
We
cool.
haven't had to draw down and get broke. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it, man. And then that you get to do it with your wife, and like JRuss, that you and Steph get, like, I love that. Like, I see that, and it's really not that common. It's really not.
Right.
And so that's just like you guys, I don't know if you realize, if you stop to think, how lucky you are that your mate, your person, your girl, like, you get to jump with her all the time. That's so awesome. Because I've tried to get my wife to jump. I've tried to get her in the tunnel. It's just not her thing. I'm like, it's not for everybody. And so I love that for y'all. I think that's so great. It's really special.
You're right. It's a gift to have the opportunity to spend so much time together and do this stuff together. But even more than that, I only achieved what I achieved because of my partner. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way I would have won a national championship, gone to the world championships, without Jeanette there, encouraging me, supporting me, helping me be a better teammate. And I think, she would say the same for her.
Yeah.
So the growth and growing our business of rhythm skydiving, no way I would be as successful alone. I'm just not that good.
That's cool. That's very cool. And I think the same is true for you, JRuss. Is that right? I mean, I mean, just sure. Watching Steph in the tunnel, she just blows me away, man. She's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could say what Steve said, but it would sound worse probably. And so I'll just leave it with what he said.
Yeah.
I want to point out for the nerds out there that Steve and Jeanette are both MIT grads.
Wow. Whoa. Okay.
And since there's a decent collection of MIT grads who are skydivers, and I think, did you guys do like an MIT all head down jump or something?
Yes, we did an MIT big way back in, I don't remember exactly the year, but I'm going to say maybe 2017, give or take, during Summerfest. We spelled out MIT. I think there were maybe 8 or 9 of us, give or take. That was on our belly. And then for those who could free fly, we made a smaller group, and maybe that was 5 of us, and we did a head down jump, and we did that as well. And I sent it in to the MIT magazine, and they published it. So that was pretty cool.
That's neat.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Do you remember who else was there from MIT?
I'm pretty sure Banks and Maggie.
Yep.
Swati, is that her name? I think.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a TH to that, like Swathi, but
yeah. Was Rob Rady's on that jump? He probably was on that jump. Dan Schultz, I'm pretty sure was on that jump. Of course, Jeanette. Yeah, there was an older guy. Shoot, now I'm going to start to feel bad about the people who I'm not mentioning, but other people who are unforgettable, except I can't remember their names.
Yeah, that's all right. That's cool.
Awesome.
So, did you get a degree in computer science, or would you get?
Chemical engineering.
Oh, okay. But then you did IT.
Yeah, that's right. So as I was graduating, the reality is, like, chemical engineering, I don't think this is true, but this was my impression, was that if you went straight into chemical engineering, you're going to be in this like very like specific set of tasks that, like, over time you could really perfect and start to, like, not a huge degree of creativity and newness to the problems,
Okay.
And I was told as much by when I interviewed at ExxonMobil. They were just going through the merger at the time, and the guy was like, "I love this job because, as I've gained more experience, there's this book they give us, And every problem you're presented with, you can find it somewhere in this book, and there's the solution there for you. And he's like, that's great. And I just was like, that does not sound great to me. That sounds boring. And honestly, I think that was his experience. I think that's not fair at all. But that's the feeling I had. So at that time, if you went to a good school like MIT, you could like become an engineer, go to grad school, or you could go into business consulting, or people would go into like finance. Those were like or maybe law or medical. So consulting felt like the opposite. It felt like this sort of vague thing that is like almost like hardly that well defined, of just you're going to help businesses creatively solve their problems. And that sounded much more appealing than what chemical engineering sounded like to me. So I went into this consulting, and then the IT consulting was the type of consulting.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Steve, you're obviously a competitor, and I'm curious if you can sort of expand on what you like about competition and what keeps you competing.
Yeah, so I think maybe there's different kinds of competitors, right? I think there are some that are driven by wanting to win specifically and be the best in their field, right? I'm somewhat like that, but also in a lot of ways not like that. I would say that I'm more internally driven to be better than I currently am. And as long as I feel like I'm continuing to grow and get better than I am now, then that's really rewarding to me. And that's kind of driven me in everything I've done, whether it's in academics or work or skydiving or specific skydiving competition. I've been happy as long as I think I'm getting better. And that's drove me, so I have a little story that I feel like kind of encapsulates very much who I am, which is this is before I joined the company that Jeanette worked at. And there was this like company barbecue that I went to because Jeanette was there. And we went to the Indiana sand dunes. And at one point, I looked at this big sand dune in front of me, and I sprinted up it. And then I started to walk back down, and Jeanette's boss was like, hey, what's Steve doing? And she said, well, he ran up the hill, and the boss was like, why? And he's like, probably he's going to he timed himself, and then he's going to do it again and see if he can do it better. And so I walked down.
Wait, was she right?
Well, so I walked down. Jeanette's boss says, what was that? And I said, well, I ran up that hill and I timed myself, and now I'm going to go up again and see if I can do it better. And he's like, he goes, that's weird. I want to try. And so he ran up with me, and then he got to the top, and he puked. And I think I earned his respect, and later on he hired me. But
that's awesome.
That's you say like what drives me and what it's wanting to just sort of get better. And I think on a side note, that's really helped with my longevity and why you say like why do you how can you kind of keep in the sport? Because especially my team, if people know about my team, like as we got better and better, we often would approach Airspeed, the top team in the nation generally. And just as we were getting closer, if they lost someone, they'd peel someone away from our team. And it was heartbreaking to get that close and then find that not only sort of Airspeed got stronger, but we got weaker, and that gap was sort of double every time that happened. And we would have to take a step back, bring on a new person who was behind, and you have to decide at that point, are you going to be frustrated that you're not scoring what you were before, your teammate left? Or are you going to take this as an opportunity personally to continue to push yourself to be the best teammate you can be, to help that new person grow as quickly as possible, and to take on, the gap that there is there as the team needs, and I always felt motivated by that. And at times, these guys who started out behind me surpassed me too, you know? But that I think that internal competitiveness and that feeling that I'm going to be rewarded even if the scores aren't there or the medals aren't there is what has kept me in the sport so long, you know, competing so long.
Wow, man. JRuss, I like, we've got to take a moment to appreciate everything that Steve just said. Like that attitude and that mindset is really like I think our world needs that. I'm serious. We need, like, you basically said that you recognized the situation was not what you wanted. It was not what you preferred. It was not what you were trying to do. And it seemed a little bit unfair. I mean, I'm putting some words in your mouth a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But you chose to say, nope, I'm going to focus on the positive sides of this. I'm going to see how can this be a good thing? How can I turn this into something good and positive and beneficial for everybody involved? And dude, that's really fantastic. That is not a little thing. That's very cool. I want to try to remember that, and I want to try to do that in all aspects of my life. That's very good.
Thank you.
One thing that I think is interesting is the mindset of, not you. I mean, your mindset's interesting, of course, but that when we were still in Dubai and we were beating everybody finally, and we were going to lose people and move back when we moved back to the U.S. And one of the people in Dubai said, "Well, why don't you grab a couple of the Canadians? Aren't they the team that's closest to you right now?" And I was like, "That's stupid. Like, I want to break up a really good team so that we can have their team members? No, I'm not doing that. I want to compete against those guys. They're really good. Like, I just want to find people for my team. I don't want to take from their team." And then all those years of being alongside you guys, you know, in Chicago and seeing that happen over and over again, it's such a strange mindset to me. Like, find your own people to develop and then meet on the most even terms that you possibly can, because you both, and you know, nothing against I like most of the guys that left your team and went to their team, but at the same time, I didn't feel great about it. You know, and when we were searching for new teammates a few months ago, there was a guy that we wanted who was on another team, and I'm like, we're not breaking that team up. And they ended up, their team broke, nothing to do with us, and I hadn't said a word to them, and they knew that we needed teammates, so I can't say that it was totally unknown to them or not part of the equation. But man, it's just a really different mindset, in my opinion, about how to build a team.
It does seem a little bit like stealing somebody's girlfriend, kinda. I mean, doesn't it? A little bit.
No, you know, in a way, but I have to say, as much as I was the victim of that, and it sucks to be on that side of it, I didn't truly begrudge them for doing it. I guess I don't see it exactly the same way. I see it as each team is trying to, I mean, I guess it depends on your goals, but, you know, with Airspeed, they're trying to be the best team in the world and assemble the best, most athletic competitors they can. And if that means getting it from, you know, from us, then that might be necessary to achieve that goal. And I honestly, I felt this might sound, I don't know, like anyway, I'm just gonna say it. I felt like it was my task to make our team so great and appealing that people wouldn't want to leave. And if I didn't do that, then honestly, to an extent, it was sort of my shortcoming, you know, and I would sort of push myself to do more. And eventually, when we did beat Airspeed, Doug and Andrew had been approached at some point in their time with us of like, would you be considering going? And obviously they didn't, you know. And so I feel like when I finally achieved the national championship was also when I achieved creating a team that people didn't want to leave, you know? And so I don't really blame them. And honestly, I have to say that if when we asked Doug and Andrew, they were on a team that was behind us, and you can argue whether that team would have continued or how serious people on whatever, but there's a fine line, and it's hard to say that you would never do this. I mean, it's cool your approach, JRuss, but honestly, I never blamed them that much. I really took it as it's my job to make our team unleavable, not someone else's job not to ask. Similarly, if you talk about the girlfriend situation, I mean, if someone is hitting on my girlfriend, and my girlfriend's like, "Oh yeah, let me go screw you," then yeah, I mean, I wasn't with the right girl.
That's a good point.
I'm not going to blame myself. I'm not saying I'm a victim,
but she obviously wasn't
wrong.
That
but I'm also saying I want to be the guy and choose the girl. Who wants to be with me and who I'm good enough for. Both.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and to your point as well, as you were speaking, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Other sports do the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Baseball, football, basketball, hockey. I mean, they get players from. I mean, I totally see your point, JRuss, and I kind of still lean with you.
I just think over the years we've found people who can fly, and
that's cool.
And it hasn't been. I don't think we've broken up any team to get a new person ever. Mm-hmm. And I don't blame the people who left, honestly. And if there was blame in that scenario, it would be on me for breaking up another team. In my opinion, not on the people saying, "Oh, well, Core is the world champions." Like, I want to go fly with them.
Yeah,
it's my problem for saying, "Hey, we want you to come here," instead of just saying, "Hey, there's a lot of people out there who can fly. Let's find somebody who fits on a personality basis and teach them what we do." And make our own team. And I agree, Chris, that it does happen. Like, but you're talking about professional sports where there's, I don't know, at least hundreds of people who are in that pool of talent. And when you're looking at the teams that Steve has developed and the talent pool that can live up to that, there's, I mean, tens of people, like maybe 10. And I think of the people that we've asked, like, that they weren't ready for what we were doing. And by the time that we got there, they were ready. And then they become one of those 10 or 15 people who can compete at that level. But I think if there were thousands of FS teams around the world, and I still think FS is a crazy big discipline in US nationals, and there's 60 or 70 teams, but I mean, there's intermediate and is there a beginner, intermediate, advanced, and open? There's 4 categories, right? Mm-hmm. And like the people that he's got to choose from for a team are like the winning, or maybe the top 3 in advance to think about bringing people up, and that I mean, I competed in intermediate last year for a belly team, and I mean, there were a lot of those teams, and that's not a pool of people that they can even really consider. So, I don't know. I'm sticking to my guns on don't break up other teams to make your team good.
Okay. Hey, real quick, JRuss, before we move on, because I know you've got more questions and stuff. Can you give another plug for Crave? Because everything you said last episode was so cool. And Steve, do you know much about Crave, about the not just the podcast, but do you know about the business and what we do and courses and stuff like that? Do you know anything about it?
I know some. I'm aware of the courses. Yeah. Okay. And then you've gotten a lot of great people like JRuss and Stephanie. Also, I believe Sharon did some stuff, right? And I know a bunch of other. So I'm familiar with the idea of sort of doing like high quality, very highly produced educational sort of courses in different disciplines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So did Pete Allen's course come out yet?
We're getting close. We're getting close. Working on final round of post-production and putting together like motion graphics that are going to go in and kind of final stuff. Yep.
I love Pete
So
Allen.
Yeah.
Pete's
man,
awesome.
Yeah. I
total
mean,
gold.
he's one of those guys. If you don't, then there's
Gold.
something wrong with you, right? So
Yeah. Actually, Steph and I don't know if I've told either one of you guys, but a couple of years ago, Steph found a used city bus from Denver RTD, and we bought it. But I haven't had time to do anything with it. And in this month, we've got almost 3 weeks where I can work on it. So we're driving back to be on time for the show, because I was on time for once. And she started playing that little the video that you sent me. Is it okay if I show this video or whatever about us? One of our original conversations about Crave, and like, man, if Pete Allen or Larry or Inca or some of the Kurt and Jeannie, like some of these people that are just, have great things to say in the sport, if they're offering a course, then sign me up. And she said that, so she watched it, and I think she shared it to our social media, and then she was talking about some of the comments, and one of the comments back, and I didn't read this myself, so this is totally third person here, but she said that somebody said, "Oh, it's great, but I just wish there was more content, because once you watch the course, then it's just over."
Oh, then you're done with it. I saw that comment. Yeah.
And I was just baffled. I was like, you're paying $15 a month. Like, we went to Starbucks on the way the other day, and it was $21 for 2 lattes. And I didn't get any smarter drinking those lattes. And so you're paying $15 for a month. That's, if by some pretty straightforward math, that's about 50 cents a day to get smarter. And you could probably listen to, what our course was drinking from a fire hose for people, like it's so much information. And,
so much.
And there's 8 or 10 courses active now.
Pete's will be the 8th, I believe. Yep.
Okay. And I listened to Kurt and Jeannie's. That's the one I listened to it twice, actually. And just because the volume of information is insane. And it just baffled me, I guess, that someone would make that comment of like, my $15 a month is so quickly used up that I just wish there was more content. You could probably listen. Steph, the course we did was probably 6 hours. And if you think you listened to that once and you got everything, you didn't. You need to go experience for yourself and then come back and listen to it again. And then a whole bunch of things are going to make better sense. But that's pretty much every course that you've got. And if every course is 4 or 5, 6 hours, there's just so much information for your $15.
Yeah. Well, there's over 215 individual lessons or little piece, videos or whatever. And over, I don't know, over 20 hours, I don't know how many hours of content. And I'm thank you for saying that, because that I saw that comment and I thought the exact same thing. I so desperately wanted to respond, but I also didn't want to like come off like, agitating or, confrontational or whatever. But I've had multiple skydivers tell me, dude, I have watched the movement course. That's Luis and Sharon. They're talking about movement jumps and angle flying and stuff. And they're like, dude, I've watched that course like 4 times. And every time I watch it, I pick up something that I missed the first, the previous time. Right. And their course is actually one of the shorter courses, but you're exactly right. There's so much. Just watch it over and over. I've watched some of them, like some of y'all's content, JRuss, I've watched over and over. And I'm like, how did I not hear that the first time? I was sitting there when we recorded and that didn't even register. And I just learned something new. I think it's awesome.
I don't know if people understand, like, I don't remember Steve's 16,000 skydive, something like that. Stephanie and I combined are around 40,000. Pete Allen is 35 or 36.
Over 36,000.
Yeah. If you don't want to spend 36,000 jumps, and Steve's been jumping for nearly 20 years, and I'm a little more than 20 years. If you don't want to spend that time to develop all this stuff yourself, how else are you going to do it? Are you telling me that $15 a month is too much? Like, I don't know. I'm still baffled a little bit. Like, I appreciate the price change that you did for the course, but just those kind of comments, I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, okay. On that note, this is total side note, but I just think this is so interesting. I tried to calculate like all the instructors based on how many jumps they've done, how many years they've been in the sport. Now, granted, I admit I am making assumption. Like this is me trying to guess at the amount of the dollar investment represented in those courses is, I think it's over $5 million that it took for all of the instructors, you take all their experience, all their jumps, everything. It took at least $5 million for you guys, all of y'all, to get all the experience and knowledge that you have. That's crazy.
You might be underestimating.
Yeah, I can tell you for sure. I mean, I get that I'm not one of your course leaders, but as a somewhat of a peer of this group, I spent more on my skydiving education than my MIT education, no doubt. By now.
Yeah. But MIT is really cheap, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you really? You think so? Are you serious? Is that
no doubt. For sure?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I went to a state school. But that's not even close.
You've also had way more fun with your skydiving education.
Absolutely, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, Steve. There's two questions I want to ask, and the first one I think is going to be a little bit more straightforward, and the second one we'll get to. But is there anything, like, if we've talked a bunch of times about safety around the drop zone, and is there something that you would like to touch on in terms of safety issues that you think are either under talked about or under thought about, or you would like people to consider more?
Safety. This is maybe something I think about a lot. Two things that are I think maybe very separate, because one is very practical and one is a little bit more high level. One is the idea of, like, especially under canopy, because I think that's our most dangerous time, asking yourself if you're fixated on anything and making sure that you don't let the dangerous thing over here distract you from the thing that could become dangerous over there. I think it's very easy for us to get fixated on something, and that, while we're safe from not getting hurt by that, it's the other thing we didn't see coming because of that fixation. That's one thing, so a lot of times I'm literally asking myself, like, I'm looking at this guy and he is flying very unpredictably. And then I say to myself, ooh, okay, how long I've been looking at him? Let me look around again, or I feel like I'm not going to make it back exactly where I want. So I'm really fixated on the spot on the ground that I think I'm going to make it to. Ooh, let me look around and make sure that I'm not, losing focus on also being aware of the other canopies in the air, So that's a really big thing, I think, that is just human nature, that unless we deliberately are aware of it, I feel like that's can put us in a high risk, And the other more general thing.
Hold on, I want to interrupt. Steve, let me interrupt you for a second. Whoa, is there an echo? Sorry.
Yeah,
I feel like you and I have talked in the past about you are not a person that's going to kick your legs at the people you see, because right, and that kind of habit under canopy of, like, oh, I see you, and let me see you kick your legs so you see me. Like, I already see you. I need to focus on what else is out there.
Yeah, here's my idea, and I've talked about it with a lot of different people. The reality is sometimes I kick just out of kind of a politeness. It feels almost like rude not to. But here's the thing. If I kick at you, what do you think that means? Does it mean to you that because I see you, you can stop paying attention to me and take it for granted that we're not going to collide? Because if so, I don't want that message sent. I want you to treat me like a dangerous person who might hit you at all times. And therefore, you're going to not, like I said, not be completely fixated on me, like I've just said in the previous example, but I want you aware of me and continuing to be aware of me and not checking me off in your mind. And I think that both you and I are safer if that happens. And I believe that when people kick their feet, not always, but it tends to a sense of like, okay, I've checked that guy off. He sees me. This is not the danger, me and him. I'd rather you think, you know what? Maybe Steve's going to hit me. Let me keep an eye on him. Because otherwise, also, as Jeanette always points out, who gets to say that? If I'm in the sky and JRuss is in the sky, and JRuss and I kick at each other, who gets to be the one that says, now that other person is looking at me so I can stop focusing and paying attention and making sure that we don't collide? If it's me, how do I know JRuss doesn't think the same thing? And now we have two people who have decided to kind of ignore each other and add that blind spot. So I think practically speaking, this thing just doesn't really work. On the other hand, sometimes I just feel a little bit like, someone's kicked at me, and it's a little bit like someone waving as they drive by, and like, it feels almost a little bit rude. So I'm going to wave back at you just because, like, I'm going to say hi,
You think that if you did your signature move of the canopy zombie, that would do two things. It would acknowledge their kick, and it would also make them clearly want to keep their eye on you.
Maybe. Zombie canopy flight is the dumbest, most fun thing that, like, most people have never done.
What is it?
It's
so,
just...
yes, what I do is I take my risers, not my risers, sorry, my toggles, and I stick them out with my arms straight out in front of me, and I go, and I say,
he's kicking his legs at the same time.
And I kick my legs.
His canopy's bouncing all over the place.
Yes. And sometimes people who know zombie canopy flight by me as well, and they do. So you're right.
It's hilarious when you see it, but when you do it, it's really sketchy feeling. Like your canopy just.
Yeah. When you take those toggles and put them way out in front of you, like a couple of inches, sort of makes it move. Especially if you have a smaller canopy, makes it can move quite a bit, and it's a little bit scary. I'm doing it high up, and it's fun.
I'm totally going to do that now. If I was flying my canopy and I had never heard you talk about that, and I kicked my legs at you and I saw you do that, I'd be like, I got to keep my eye on that guy.
Exactly.
Which is what I want.
I don't know what that idiot is doing, but I'm going to keep my eye on him.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, but dude, you're totally right. When I kick my legs at someone and they kick them at me, I think I do just mentally check them off.
Yeah.
And I say, oh, okay, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if there's anybody else that I'm not good with and focus on them. Now, I don't have those exact thoughts, but that is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's
the
helpful.
question is,
thank you.
Are you safer for that thought? And
no, absolutely
you're not, right?
Absolutely
and
not.
Also, especially, you might argue you're less safe because if the other guy has done that same thing,
sure.
Now you got two people who deliberately decided to stop paying attention to each other.
Yep.
And that's exactly the opposite of what we want.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway.
Okay, second safety thing.
Second safety thing, this is more of a high level idea, but I've seen a number of people taking advice, newer skydivers taking advice from people who I know they shouldn't be taking advice from. Because they don't have the experience. In other words, there's someone with 25 jumps taking advice from someone with 27 jumps, And what I've come to sort of suggest as a rule of thumb, and so this applies to safety and judgment and maybe your path, your chosen kind of career line through the sport, is before you listen to someone's advice, find someone else you've come to respect in the sport and ask them if the other person is worth listening to. So in other words, it's kind of a way of saying like check references. Don't just take for granted that someone who has 10 more jumps than you, or maybe even seems like they have thousands more jumps than you, is worth listening to without you. Maybe already you've got a mentor in the sport. Maybe it's your AFF instructor. Maybe if there's a JRuss on your drop zone. I think it's so helpful, and I would love to see more people go up to say a JRuss and say, hey, this person suggested this to me. Is he a person I should be listening to? And if JRuss says, yeah, that guy's really got good information, then yes. And if JRuss kind of says, well, maybe, tries to be polite, but maybe, you're getting the gist, then it's someone you shouldn't be listening to. I see too many people getting bad advice from the wrong people because they just assume that because the person has slightly more than them, they deserve to be listened to. And it's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like there was a repository of knowledge that people could reference whenever they needed to, and they didn't have to rely on a 50 jump wonder or something, huh, Chris?
There you go. There you go. Exactly.
What would that be called? What would they do? Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Great.
It's almost like if they really had this strong desire to be better, like they're like almost like they were craving it,
Okay, Steve, so moving on, I want to hear your thoughts about angle flying.
Just what do I think about angle flying?
Yeah, like what do you think about it's a thing that we talk about pretty commonly, and I know that you've had good and bad experiences with angle flying and sort of their placement in the jump order and who's leading and how it's interacted with you as a flyer, and sort of the steps maybe that you've taken to insulate yourself perhaps, or the people that you're jumping with, from the possibility of mistakes that are happening around you. And so I know that in the years past for Summerfest, or even when we were team training, I've listened to interactions that you've had with people. And I think if anything, you're a shining example of a calm demeanor when discussing these things that can sometimes be very sensitive. And so I'm just curious, off the cuff, what do you think about angle flying, and what do you think what jumps to mind when you hear that?
First I have to say that I respect it. You know what I mean? I think it's a cool discipline that is truly, it's truly free flying, right? It's free flying at a different, it's just not straight down. As I've improved in my own personal free flying skills, I've come to appreciate that, as a belly flyer who never did any of that at all, it'd be like, oh, that's tracking. Great. That's what I do at the end of my jump. But you realize it's so much more than that. And at a high level, it takes a great amount of skill. It could be super fun. And visually, it's like among the most fun things to see. Right. So I respect it. I also think that there's a lure among newer skydivers who don't necessarily have the skills to fly vertically head down in groups, to say, well, let me do an angle jump because I can sort of be near enough. I feel like I'm doing something cool with other people, and I feel ready for that maybe before I feel ready for straight vertical. And I think that can be dangerous. It can lead people to be in larger groups than they safely should be, earlier than they should be. And that's scary. And I think that, the speeds that are involved are more dangerous, certainly, than belly flying, right? And so you see people getting hurt within groups, I think, more than the rate at which belly flying stuff happens. This is not a reason not to do it, but I'm just saying I think that it deserves a respect and a reverence for the risks that I think maybe aren't always clearly communicated or understood among newer skydivers. And then my personal experience is one who I've done it very little, but I've done it some. And then now I'm on a plane organizing a jump that's adjacent, or sort of just before, just after a free fly group. Sorry, an angle group. They make me nervous sometimes, and generally what it has to do with is my familiarity and comfort level with the leader and the size. But generally, if I'm confident in the leader, then I'm confident that the leader has made a good decision about the size of the group. But I have seen more times where I've been uncomfortable with what another group on the airplane, either before or after me, has done when that group has been a angle group, than I would say any other group. Like, in other words, it's less likely that a belly group is going to do something before or after me that's going to make me nervous. It's less likely that a wingsuit group is going to make me nervous. It's less likely that a straight down group is going to make me nervous. The angle groups, on more occasions than any of those others, I'm gonna land, and I'm gonna find that leader and have a talk with them because they didn't do something safe. And that safe thing is generally they opened up somewhere, probably where they need to kind of get back to the landing area, and instead of staying off of the line of flight, they go directly underneath me. As I'm opening, and I've gotten, even as recently as this last invasion, where I've had to talk with an organizer and say, your guys, I had literally this invasion, one of the closest openings I've had in my, nearly 15,000 jumps, because an angle group, one of the guys, not the leader and not most of them, but one of the guys on his jump went right underneath me. And especially because they pull higher than us. So all this is sort of closer vertically and then also very close horizontally.
So
that's the thing that
you
makes me
said
nervous.
A second ago, I just want to rephrase to make sure I understood. You said angle groups have made you uncomfortable more often than any other group. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and I don't hear that as an accusation. I just hear that as you're just saying that's just the way it is. And I think that's good for us to hear, because especially people who love to angle fly and lead and organize a lot of movement jumps, I need to know that. I need to know, how can I do a better job? Like, that should not offend me. That should not bother me. That should not upset me. That should open my eyes and say, wait a minute. Okay, how do I change this? How do I make this better? How do I make it safer? Like, we're all up there together. We all want to live to fly another day. So let's make this good.
Yeah, if I collide with someone, we're both going to get hurt.
Yeah.
So Steve, I know, like I've personally heard you many times just being proactive in the loading area and in a very nice way, asking angle flyer leaders that you're not familiar with, hey, what are you doing? Where are you going?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going to open? How high are you going to open? And just kind of putting them through a standard battery of requests for your own edification, I guess, or just the feeling of comfort on the jump. One of the things that we're talking about that I think Tex, I don't know if you know Tex, but he was a guest on the show. He's started going around to drop zones to try to help them establish what's the right word? Safety protocols. Yeah, when angle flyers are on the load, and who should be allowed to lead angle jumps, and what's the vetting process for those leaders, and how do the other people stay safe around these groups. And Tex read through the test that we created at Skydive Chicago, as well as the system that we had in place, which I'm not even sure that, because it's only the last couple of years, where they filled out a little piece of paper with like an overlay of the drop zone, and they had to draw their planned pathway, and they had to draw their opening point, and then they had to give it to the loader. And one of the things that Tex suggested was like, hey, just make that a whiteboard with the overlay, so that everybody on the load, it's not just the loader who sees that little piece of paper, but that everybody, they have to be there at the 5-minute call. They've got to write all the same information. It's just now it's visible. Now it's up for everyone to see. And I thought that was cool. An absolutely brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Just so that there's accountability, and it's not sort of, I don't mean it to be like always pointing the finger at angle flyers like you guys are messing things up or anything like that, but just that there is accountability, and it extends through the whole load of like, everybody understands this is where that group is supposed to be. This is where my group is going to be. And then when things like that happen, it's a little bit easier to say, well, I thought you were going to be kind of by the quarry, and actually you're out west. How did that happen? Or something like that. But wondered if you agree with that being a better idea than the piece of paper.
Yeah, for me, my comfort level goes up so much when I feel convinced that the leader has thought through all that stuff. So the reality is, a lot of times there'll be an organizer who will tell me like all the details of what they're going to do. And it's a little bit like you had me at hello, like at the point at which you've taken the time to think through this and then communicate with me, like there, I'm convinced, I'm honestly, I feel comfortable, here's a guy who's thought through it. If they want to share that stuff, like would I practically, like I'm falling straight down, and I'm going to continue to fall straight down. Am I practically going to look at something on a whiteboard and do something different? Like, no. But I like the idea of it because I like it that it encourages someone to have put that thought into it, so that's what's important to me,
Cool. I was wondering, as we get approaching the end of our hour, which doesn't have to be an hour, but it's normally about an hour, if you were interested, since it came up between me and Steph the other day, in just sharing with us the story of having raccoons as pets as a child.
Yes. I love my raccoons. Yeah. So, sure. My dad was a Spanish teacher, and he also trapped animals like in people's yards or attics or whatever. And we grew up in the Northeast. We grew up in New York, and he caught raccoons, squirrels, skunks. Those were like the majority. And on occasion, we'd get raccoons where the mother had died for some reason. And now we had these babies, and we would always try to raise them to maturity so that they could get free. And every once in a while, so we'd have these baby raccoons. And I remember the very first raccoon was Rocky, right? Because Rocky Raccoon. And then because there was also the Rocky movies, the next raccoon was Rocky 2. And then the next raccoon was Rocky 3 and Rocky 4. And eventually my dad was like, you got to come up with something more original than Rocky.
So like, all right, Adrian.
Yeah. Well, we came up, we thought, what is the least raccoon sounding name? So we had these two named Elliot and TJ, because we just kind of felt like they were just mundane names, So Elliot and TJ were the ones that I don't know, that were like the most dear to my heart. We raised them probably the longest, and they were so like warm and so intelligent. Raccoons are really intelligent animals, and when they're young, they're just super cute too. I was probably like 6 or 7. My brother would have been like 12 or 13. We would go. My town was very small, outside in the suburbs of New York, and we'd go to Little League. I remember, and my brother would be playing baseball, and I'd go and I would go to the snack bar and get a hot dog for me and a hot dog for Ellie and TJ. And Ellie and TJ would follow me around. I'd feed them the hot dog, and then we'd go to my brother's field, and they'd climb up on the backstop and they'd watch the baseball players, and people just knew. They knew us, so nobody got really freaked out.
They weren't on a leash or anything? They would just follow you around?
They were not on a leash. They just followed us around.
Man.
In fact,
that's cool.
It got kind of crazier than that because, you could question the judgment of my dad, but
oh man,
he had a rack on his car where he stacked the cages up on the roof. And on occasion, when it was hot in the summer, we would let the windows down, and the raccoons would actually climb out the window and like kind of just crawl on the roof of the car while we were driving through town.
Dude, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then they would sort of climb back in, and every once in a while someone would we'd be at a stoplight and the raccoons would start crawling all over the car, and someone would honk and be like, hey, you got some kind of wild animal
on your car.
Yeah. And then we pretend like we didn't know. Like, oh, what? Yeah, it was really great. It was a cool experience. It actually has like a super sad ending that I don't. That part it's too hard for.
We can just leave it the happy part.
Yeah, let's stick with the happy part. That's good.
But they were really, really cool, and that was a wonderful experience in my childhood.
That's cool. You reminded me of my brother had a dog in college, an Australian Shepherd, and we shared a truck, and we had a toolbox in the back of the truck, just sits up against the cab, and her name was Hondo, and she absolutely loved to ride in the back of the truck. Like, I mean, it was so obvious. I mean, anytime we'd pick up the keys to the truck, she's just darting out the door. And so when we were driving around, it didn't matter if we were in town or on the highway or wherever, she's on that toolbox, just running back and forth, on the edge, sticking her head around the side. And I mean, we had been we'd had her for so long. We knew that she knew what she was doing. She was safe. She'd never
Yeah.
fallen. I mean, like, she just loved it. But oh man, we had some people like freaking out because, you know, there's a dog. Like, I mean, just like losing their mind. It's like,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, just to be clear, we're not advocating people pick up wild raccoons, but you had them from a very
Yeah. We milk
young
fed them.
age, and you brought them back to life, so to speak.
And I mean, it was that. Well, one, it was that, or they were dead. You know, I mean, without a parent to raise them. And then secondly, I can't say that it was the best judgment either. Everything we did, I'm not saying it's what we did. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I want to point out as we are getting closer to the end that Steve, you guys have developed an app of your own.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because it's super. We actually use your app as free flyers, and it's super helpful. So I wondered if you want to just make a plug for that.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I have no idea what JRuss is talking about, so I'm really interested.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What is this?
So we actually have two apps.
Okay.
Rhythm Skydiving 101 and Rhythm Skydiving 401.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I have looked at.
You familiar with those?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Yes.
So, I mean, honestly, it's in a lot of ways, you know, similar to what you're trying to do with Crave.
Yeah.
It's focused. 101 is specifically for the newer skydiver. Although I think it also is stuff that as coaches and more experienced people who are in a position to teach others, like really great information. But things like basic belly flight, things like etiquette, you know, how do I figure out my loading order, gear checks, landing your canopy, landing patterns, and then there's also sort of 2 ways and 3 ways example jumps for newer skydivers. So the idea was a coach in your pocket, you know, and you show up at a drop zone and you say like, what do you want? You know, the like cliche is someone walks up to someone and say, hey, you want to jump together? Yeah. They say, what do you want to do? And someone says, I don't know. What do you want to do? You can maybe pull out this app and say, oh, why don't we do one of these 2-way videos, you know, or 3 ways. Well, a cool example, just a short side story of that is a friend of mine was telling me about how he walked onto the drop zone in Paris. There was a Japanese skydiver, spoke no English, but they gestured, you know, hey, you want to do a 2-way? That was clear. What they were going to do wasn't clear. So my friend takes out the Rhythm 101 app, picks one of the 2 ways. They watch the video, point, you know, you be this guy, I'll be that guy, and went out and did it.
That's
you know,
awesome.
without a word of shared language.
Oh,
they pulled off this great skydiving, and I was super proud of that.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Well,
so that's Rhythm Skydiving 101, and then Rhythm Skydiving 401 is focused on competition and specifically 4-way and 8-way. So we have a bunch of free resources, including a dive generator. So it'll help you come up with dives based on criteria you can set, a dive timer, a lot of like PDFs and videos that explain what the positions are and team building and all of that. And then there's a subscription for additional portion where we go into greater detail on block and random, or basically the skydiving technique, you know, and people can pay for that portion, you know, if they're, you know, if they want.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 apps, and I'm really proud of both. Fairly recently, last Nationals, I finally unveiled like a whole 8-way edition, so that's cool. But the 4-way's been out there for a while, and it's for that. You know, you can't get that detail anywhere else, you know, without paying a coach, you know?
Yeah. And the 101, it seems like the first time I saw that was quite a few years ago. Has it been out for a while, right?
Yes. 101, shoot. It might've been 2016.
Okay. I was going to say, I think the first time I saw it was like maybe 2017 or 18. I don't remember exactly, but,
yeah.
Okay. So if people want to, it's on the the iPhone app, the App Store, Apple App Store, right?
Exactly. So iTunes or Android.
Okay.
Just Google or just look up Rhythm Skydiving 101, Rhythm Skydiving 401. Both are free to download. Both have a lot of content free.
Mm-hmm.
The 401 you could once you're there you could subscribe for more if you choose.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah. And maybe if I can, the only other thing I'd like to plug is our tunnel workshops, because we
Absolutely.
spend a lot of time, working with people at all levels. Belly, we don't do any kind of free fly coaching, but when it comes to belly, coaching people who have no interest in competition, just want to be able to show up at a drop zone and feel confident that they're going to be able to get on a jump and do a good job, not be scared or nervous. To people who want to, eventually win the nationals or the world championships, in whatever the chosen disciplines.
When you say we, who's we that coaches, that does those camps with you?
It is me and it's sort of a group of the current Rhythm lineup, four-way lineup, plus a couple of past Rhythm competitors that also contribute.
And how?
What's that?
How often do y'all do those camps? And is it something that, do you guys travel? Do you only do them in a certain, like what?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for the questions. Good. We do it generally once a month from November to May. So people listening to it now, there's 2 more left. There's one in April. I think that's 28th weekend and a May 21st weekend.
Okay.
And we do them at Paraclete in Rayford.
Okay.
It's just one of the few tunnels that's still very amenable to this kind of event, know.
Well, on that note, I don't want to get off track, but Cam McMahon, do you know Cameron McMahon and Ray Kubiak? They're at Flyaway, Tennessee.
Oh yes,
they will be very excited to host you guys at some point.
Yeah. That will. I'm looking forward to seeing that develop.
Okay, so hold on. Let's go back to your camps because I think people are going to be very interested in this. This is something that people really, really, I think, are looking for and want, especially because you guys take care of all levels. Is that right? Absolutely.
We have people who are just trying to pass AFF.
Oh, really?
To people. Oh yeah.
Awesome.
People who maybe have never done a skydive.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. All the way to people who have been competing for years and want to be the best.
At a very high level. Okay.
There's no level where the thing I want people to know is there's no point where you should say, well, I'm not ready. I'm going to do something else first and then come to these guys. Because I think we are, when it comes to belly flying, the most efficient at getting you better quicker. I can say confidently, of 15 years of doing this, that I have never overstated how excited people feel when they show up Friday and they leave Sunday, years better than they were Friday.
Yeah.
Man.
Seriously, years better. What would have taken actually years to get, they did in a weekend.
Absolutely.
But I think something Steve said is super important, because we've also experienced the idea that, or the reality of people coming to us, say years down the road, and saying, man, when I first started, I knew you guys were at this level, and I felt like I couldn't get coaching from you because I don't even know how to backfly. So I need to go to this other guy and get backfly coaching. And it's really important to reiterate that at any level, Steve's camps can take you from, you have zero experience to the point where you're going to stand on the podium at the world meet, and all of the people in that picture, which is basically everyone, are okay to get into those camps.
Yeah.
And the camps are usually a Friday. They're usually a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So we generally set them up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But the other thing is I work really hard. I'm the one who sort of organizes it. And I've worked really hard to make it as flexible as possible. So really what people can do is say, here's my budget. Here's sort of maybe my fitness and my interest and the amount I want to put into a certain weekend and the amount of days I can kind of commit, say travel wise and work wise. What is the best I can do? So for some people, that means they show up Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they fly every single day, and they're spending a few thousand. For others, they might just show up Saturday, fly 30, 45 minutes, and they're spending more on the order of hundreds,
Okay.
So I encourage you, you contact me and say, here are my goals. Here's the budget I'm comfortable with. Here are the days I can take, and I'll fit you in,
Okay. That was my next question was around cost and budgets, and you just answered. That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, because people can really, I mean, with any skill level and any budget, if they want to get better at belly flying, they can come to you and improve in a weekend, significantly improve on at any level, any budget. That's cool. That's fantastic.
Well, okay. To be fair, you come to me and you say, my budget's $100. I want to get years better.
No. Yeah.
I'm gonna say,
people got to
save up a little.
Yes. No, people have to be reasonable. Yes. We expect that our listeners are smart and intelligent. They know what we're saying. They understand.
Yeah.
No, but that's great. I mean, that's awesome. I think there's a lot of new young skydivers that don't know that's an opportunity and something that they have at their disposal. And that's very cool.
Steve, I'm just going to type, are you still rhythmskydiving.com? What? Rhythmskydiving.com? RHYTH.
Okay. So I want to make sure that we can include that. Is that the best way? If someone is interested in coming to one of those camps, is that the best way to do that? Go to the website?
Yes. Also, if you download the apps, both of them have sort of a calendar, page, which has those included. But I like people going to the website because I have to say also, and not to extend this too much, but I mentioned tunnel and that's what I'm in the middle of right now. But we also do jumping events geared at all different levels, big ways down to 3 and 4 ways for people that are just learning. And if you go to the website, you're going to see, all about all those things. So we try to be coaches that are going to work. We're not just trying to get the sort of the best, most experienced people, but we want just anyone who's excited about learning, and do that both in the tunnel and with a variety of jumping events geared towards different sizes and different skill levels throughout the year too. So over the summertime, you're going to see more of that kind of stuff too.
Okay. And what is
rhythmskydiving.com is
rhythmskydiving.com.
Yeah.
Okay. So rhythmskydiving.com. You can check out camps. You guys from September to May? Or November to May?
Tunnel camps generally from November to May.
November to May. If you want to do a tunnel camp, you
jumping.
Can do that.
What's that?
No, I'm just kind of summarizing everything for the listeners. If they go to the website rhythmskydiving.com, if they're interested in a tunnel camp, those usually are once a month from November to May.
That's right. That's
at Rayford. And then during the summer months, basically, that's when you guys are on the drop zone. You guys are doing camps and events on the drop zone. Are those mostly at Chicago, or where are those events?
Yeah. So from say June to September, we're at Skydive Chicago.
Okay.
Usually sort of September, October, there's a little bit of a break because we're gearing up for nationals. And then November through May, there's more events at Skydive Sebastian as well,
Oh, in Florida. Oh, cool. Okay.
And particularly Doug, one of my teammates and current rhythm competitor, has done a tremendous thing. Have you already interviewed him? I imagine you will if you haven't.
No, we have.
You have. Okay. So you know about him, and he does just tremendous stuff, especially with big waves. But again, all levels of big waves, people that just want to get into it, to people who are very experienced and do the highest level. And then the rest of the teammates doing stuff, like I said, sometimes 3 ways, 4 ways, people who've never jumped in a group that large before. And what does that take, all year round. That's all year round.
Cool. That's awesome.
Cool. Finally, one last thing. How are Jeanette and Sage?
Great. Sage is my daughter. She's 2.5. She'll be 3 in June. She's taking swim lessons right now. Swim survival.
Okay.
So every morning she goes and there's a woman in a pool. We hand her to that woman, and at first she screams, and then she says, "Me want hug," or "Me want toy," and the answer is you get a hug after you float for a few seconds. And she does, and then she gets her hug, and this is, hopefully going to make her survive or help her increase the chance of survival should she fall into a pool here in Florida where there's a pool, every 20 feet. She's doing great. And Jeanette, there's sort of longer health stories for her, but she is continuing to sort of, she's doing well. She's doing really well. She and I are doing a 4-way team this year. So this will be her first team back. She had for those who don't know, she had a brain surgery a couple years ago, and it was quite serious. But she will be competing at U.S. Nationals in 4-way this year for the first time since that, and really excited to be on that team with her. So
I got a little teary eyed. That makes me super happy.
Too.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. Well, I'm glad I left that till the end. And okay, well, Steve, Chris, thank you very much for this wonderful hour and 21 minutes that nobody wasted, and
Fantastic.
Everybody learned something. And Chris likes to sign off with, "You did it again. You wasted another perfectly good hour." And my constant comment is that you didn't waste an hour. It was worthwhile.
Well, okay, hold on. Let me because maybe Steve will appreciate this. The reason I do that is because I got inspiration for the podcast and for that sign off from 2 guys who graduated from MIT.
Okay. Car Talk.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, that's awesome. Okay.
Friggin' frack.
Yeah,
absolutely. They're the best.
I've never heard Car Talk. So maybe,
oh, they're great. And yes, that's right. That's how they sign off every time. They spoke not at my graduation, but I think the next year. They were the keynote speaker, whatever you call it, for the graduation.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, Chris's camera occasionally, I don't know, overheats or something, but he's
think
still there.
I guess. Yeah.
But thank you very much for joining us. And I'm super stoked to hear that about a 4-way team with you guys. That's great.
Yeah.
And hopefully lots of people will get tunnel coaching and use your app and come see you for events.
Thank you very much, guys. This is fun.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us, Steve. It was really cool having you.
We got to sign up Jeanette sometime soon.
Yes. Yeah. She's way smarter than me, and could say everything I could say better, pretty much.
Yeah, I won't agree or disagree. I'll just smile and nod.
Just know it's true.
That's awesome.
Cool. All right. Good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
And we will hopefully see you next week.